Everybody makes the team, but how you play is up to you. Welcome to the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast. I'm your host, Gale Nelson, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters Miami. I'm in studio today with our newest board member, a guy that has tremendous passion, energy, my man, Rick Arce. He's a commercial business litigation attorney, father to an amazing 7-year-old, Benji. Shout out to Benji. And husband of 10 years to Samantha. Rick, welcome to the board. Welcome to Big Brothers Big Sisters. Welcome to the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast.
Thank you, Gale. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. I'm so thrilled to be a part of the board. And I'm psyched to be here with you today to talk a little bit about my story and why I'm here and all the good things we've got in store for the future.
There's no doubt. And Rick, one of the things that really struck me, when we sat together in my office and we talked about you joining the board, and we just talked about you. Yeah. And it's important as we talk about mentoring, as we talk about just helping our community, there's a human context, there's a local context, there's a why. Mm-hmm. And just talk to us about just your journey and what brought you to us.
You know, I just turned 50. It may not look it.
No, you look good, brother.
This is where you say you're looking great.
You look good for your age.
Thank you. I just turned 50, and you know, I've got, as you mentioned, I have a 7-year-old, and I'm trying to be the best dad that I could be, and I want him to appreciate that. You know, he's got a lot of things in his life. He has a mom and dad that love him, but I want him to be able to appreciate that, you know, he lives in a little bubble, and that there's a lot of kids out there that don't have those privileges that he has, don't have necessarily the mother or the father. And so I wanted to be able to have him understand that as well. And that's where I had this commitment to want to give back to the community, because I felt that it was something that I was kind of going on this journey with my son, and it was personal development for me as well. And so, you know, I was looking at different organizations that I could join, but something that connected with me, something where I would have, you know, I would be able to make an impact. And because of, you know, my wife and I were raising our 7-year-old, this group, this organization really hit home to me, because then I started reflecting. You talked about our conversation that we had.
That was deep. That was a deep conversation.
It was, but it was me still realizing, you know what, this Big Brothers Big Sisters, this is where I need to be. This is the organization for me, mm-hmm. because it connects so deeply with me and my childhood. And, you know, I reflect on it now as a 50-year-old man thinking, you know, I could have used a mentor, and the value of mentorship, I should say. So that's what's kind of really brought me here today. You know, is I understand the value of having that mentor, having that guidance. You know, growing up in Miami, you know, I had a pretty good upbringing as a kid. And then as things got older, as I got older, my dad was working. He was doing many hours. And, you know, as any kid, you want to be able to spend time with your dad.
Yeah.
Right? And so, you know, he was just working, and I wanted more time with him. And you know, my personality was one where I got upset about that, and I rebelled. And he couldn't handle that. He didn't know how to respond.
What'd you do? What'd your rebellion look like?
Well, I just would get upset. Yeah. I would get angry with him, yeah. And we'd fight.
Yeah.
You know.
So you're a teenager at this point.
Well, yeah. I'm getting into, you know, 8th grade, 9th grade, getting into high school even. And so he just, you know, he was a provider. He just wasn't present.
Yeah.
And as a mentor, you need to be present. You got to be involved, know what's going on, guide, you know, help. And so he just wasn't there for that. And I look back at it now and I realize, well, he just couldn't give that. He couldn't give it at the time. So, I went through this journey where I felt at one point my house was not a place where I needed to be. It was not a safe space, and your house needs to be safe. For a kid, many of these kids, their house is not a safe space. And I felt that. So I needed to get out. And so I made the decision, on my own, again, ill-conceived now that I look back at it. But I made the decision to say, you know what, I got to get out of this house. I'm dropping out of high school, and I'm going to go work, and I'm going to figure this on my own, and so things just got worse because it's very difficult to work as a young guy, to work, try to go to school, and accomplish all these things all at the same time. You're just not going to be able to succeed. At least I wasn't. I had other different interests as well. I'm a young guy. And, of course, I made the decision to move to the beach of all places, right, when it was like the heyday of the beach, the 90s. So I'm trying to go to school. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to pay rent. I'm trying to do good at my job so I can continue to pay rent.
Wow.
And things just, as someone would be able to tell me now, if I were, if I had a mentor at the time, that's a difficult thing to do. You probably shouldn't do that. You should stay in school. Stay in school, and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what's making you feel so angry, what's making you feel, this desire, and how to work it out. But I didn't have that at the time. So I did what I thought was best, got out. You flee, right?
How old were you when you moved out?
I was already probably, I think, 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You're a grown man.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
But that void was still there as a child.
Yeah.
It's like, again, did you and your dad ever reconcile?
We did.
Okay, when?
We did. Well, so all of this culminated to the point where it was becoming tougher and tougher, and I had a few light bulb moments in my life.
Okay, that's good.
Where I had a job that was presented to me, and it seemed like it was a great job, and you're great, you're perfect for that, you're perfect for that. Okay, tell me, where'd you graduate?
Oops.
Well, about that. And then I didn't get the job. And so that was, like the dagger. And I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble here if I don't do something. And then another light bulb moment was I was dating this girl at the time. And she had all kinds of problems too, worse than what I had at the time, or as I perceived it. And I'm trying to console her. I'm talking to her, and I'm telling her, listen, what you got to do is you got to forgive. Because you got all this anger and resentment about things that have happened to you, people that have done things to you, and you got to move on. You got to move on, because all it's going to do is just rot inside of you. And it's not going to hurt them. It's only going to hurt you.
It's toxic.
It is toxic. And it's not going to allow you to grow to your full potential.
There you go.
And I'm saying this to her, and I'm thinking, this is what I need to do. So that was the other light bulb moment. And then it was like either the day after or very shortly after, I decided, as like a ceremonious thing, I was going to go to my house. I did go to my house, and my dad was there. He was working. They had moved the office back into the house, and he was sitting behind a desk, and he probably had no idea the impact that it was going to have on me. But I walked up to him, and I was like, Dad, I forgive you. I forgive you. And from here on out, I'm not going to blame you for any of my problems. Because that's essentially what I was doing. I resented what had happened. I resented our relationship. And I was basically holding him for, responsible for all that. And I needed to just stop doing that. Take control and move on. So that was like a very symbolic thing for me, where I was telling him, from here on out, that's the old Rick. The new Rick is about to start.
And how'd your dad respond?
Just like, okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Typical, 80s, 90s dad? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the 80s and 90s, so it's different. It's totally different back then.
Doubt.
You know what I mean? So there were kids my age that I'm sure had very similar things going on, and they had to deal with it in different ways. I just dealt with it the way I dealt with it. Everyone deals with things their own way, and but yeah. So some kids may have worse, some kids may have less. Bad things happen to them. It's just how you deal with it. And so that was that inflection point. And that from that moment on, it was just, listen, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta take control. And so I decided, I was gonna go back to school, finish what I had intended to do all these years. Just I didn't do it, or I couldn't do it, or whatever the reason, the obstacles that were in front of me. And it was like a 180-degree lifestyle change.
Let's pause at that pivot point. We're here in the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast with brand new board member Rick Arce, like the cola back in the day, speaking of 80s and 90s, old school. But Rick, what's interesting, the story of our littles mirrors what you're saying, in some cases without the reconciliation.
Yeah.
Before I came to Big Brothers Big Sisters, I ran a juvenile justice boarding school, all boys, ages 13 to 18, that same time frame that you were going through when you were, real emotions, the need, the longing to have the dad present, that male figure present, that mentor, a dad. And from father to father, I get it. We were in my office, we were sitting there, and when you were telling your story, I reflected on mine, growing up without my dad ever being there until I was a grown man, and I found him in California.
Right.
So my point is this. When we talk about mentoring, we talk about it's juvenile delinquency, and I'm sure you had a lot of things cross your mind, but you decided to work and go to school. You tried everything, and it was a reality check for you. Mm-hmm. It really was. But there's kids who choose, because of a lack of mentoring, to make some very poor, unhealthy decisions. So outside of your dad, my question to you is, who mentored you along the way? Once you had that reconciliation and you forgave him, who were some, outside of your dad, who were some of those people who just kind of help you, even if it was episodic? Maybe it wasn't, you're now my little brother. Maybe it wasn't formal like that, but I want people to recognize that mentoring happens every day if we're open to it, if we're looking for it, and if people are willing to give. Who are some of those people?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. A mentor could be something that's, they give you this piece of advice and it sticks with you.
Absolutely.
And you guide yourself based on that advice your whole life, perhaps.
Yep.
So my immediate family, my brother. So I have two siblings. They're 6 and 5 years my elder.
Okay.
So my brother is the eldest, my sister is the middle, and I'm the youngest. So they were older as I was a kid, and when you're growing up 5, 6 years, that's a big difference.
It is. They don't want to be around you.
No. I was a pain in the butt to my sister. I always bother her, and my brother was just, he was too old for me to do the things that he was doing at the time. But as I got older, I looked to them for guidance, and especially my mom. If there was anyone who was a mentor, it was certainly my mom.
Yeah.
As I was going through all these difficult things with my dad, it was my mom. She was the one who was my rock. She was the one who kept me going. She's the one who instilled in me that, you're going to fall. You're going to fall. Kind of like Dwayne Wade, right? Fall 7, get up 8, or whatever how that saying goes.
That's right.
That's exactly how it is. You're going to fall. It's just, it's how you get back up and how you overcome those obstacles which cause you to fall is what's going to make you strong, And so she always instilled in me not to give up, and to, this will pass. And so she's the one who guided me throughout a lot of those issues with my dad. And then, my sister, she taught me, always pursue your dreams, and that guided me because, quite frankly, to be a lawyer at the time I was going through all this stuff, that was the furthest possible thing in my mind. That was just like an unattainable thing. You had mentioned to me when I was a kid that, hey, guess what? You're going to be a lawyer. That was inconceivable at the time. So I have to thank her because she's the one who's really instilled, follow your dreams. Nothing's, everything can be attainable if you put your mind to it. And my brother, he was always a very studious guy, and he was smart, and he's a great, he's very successful now, And he guided me through getting back into school and studying and to stay the course, you know. And so the three of them were mentors to me.
That's special. Let me say this about that special kid of yours now,
Yeah.
Benji.
Yeah.
And so when you think about, I think about the dad I am today, and the fire that burns inside of me is what I missed as a kid, and I don't want my kids to ever miss out on that. May he never go through what you had to go through about a dad not being present. Talk to us about that. Because this mentoring journey, again, there are those who give, that serve as bigs here, Big Brothers, Big Sisters Miami, that are parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important for people to recognize you are a husband and a father, a commercial business litigator, you know, co-managing partner of a law firm, and you are serving on our board, and we thank you for that on behalf of the bigs, littles, and the parents. But you also signed to become a big brother as well. And so we're in final stages of that. So we're going to get you. So that whole, you're giving of your time, but it begins with you as a person, as a man, as a husband, as a father.
Yeah.
Talk about that relationship, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely. It's something that's evolved. And it started with, as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, you know, it starts, how can I be the best father I could possibly be?
Yeah.
You know, and so I've recognized that he's in a good position. We're trying to do the best we can so that he's in a good position.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot of kids that, you know, there's a lot of kids out there that don't have what he has, don't have these opportunities. And I don't want him to grow up thinking that, you know, things are just given, because they're not. And this sense of entitlement is something that I don't want him to have. So I want him to realize that there's a lot of kids out there that don't have the things he has, and to appreciate, and that things need to be earned, and you need to work hard for them. And that's where I've had this sense of purpose, to know that, you know what, there are a lot of kids that could potentially benefit from my story and what I've gone through, and I could help them.
That's right.
And so, you know, that's where this kind of full circle thing has come around, because it's now that I have a son, I've learned from my dad's mistakes and some of the good things that my dad taught me. And by the way, we were able to reconcile.
That's good.
And that's the good part of the story, is that, you know, we were able to reconcile. And before he died, which was about 9 years ago, we were good friends.
That's great.
We were good friends. So it was a moment of turmoil there for a little bit, but then, you know, we got back and we became friends until he passed away. You know, and he was the best dad he could.
Mm-hmm.
He just was limited, and I needed to understand that.
Yeah.
He went through a tough time growing up. You know, he went through a tough time. So it was just a matter of kind of understanding as an adult what he went through and his limitations. And once that was set in, you know, we enjoyed a lot of time together before he passed.
That's special. And when you have the opportunity, again, as we think about, Rick, mentorship, the journey, it's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a relationship. No two relationships are alike, whether it be father-son and household A, father-son, household B. We go through things. But if you have the opportunity to forgive, the opportunity to reconcile, the opportunity to develop a friendship on limited time, I'm glad that it went full circle.
Yeah.
And so now look at, through that journey, going back to you joining the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters. You talked about the why in terms of just where you are and what you want to teach your son as well. What are some creative things that you want to bring to this board of directors, this team of incredible corporate leaders, civic leaders, and so we're just happy to have you. So what do you think you can bring to the table?
Well, you know, I've been born here, Miami, native, born and raised, seen a lot of changes. You know, my background as an attorney, and my drive. You know, when you've got a purpose and you've got a mission, that's a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really feel connected with this group and with the people, you included, and everyone else. It's been an amazing journey. And, you know, since speaking with you initially, it's been a liberating thing for me. You know, it's been a liberating thing. And so I think, one of the things I've signed up to be a big, which I can't wait. I can't wait for that. But one of the things that I think will help me is that, I'm someone who perhaps, just I'm hoping that I'm going to be relatable, and that my story is something that will allow a kid to maybe open up about what they've gone through. And I think it's that communication that is going to be so key, because, what changed things for me was when I said, I have to just let go. I have to let go of this stuff, and I have to change the anger and all that. You can't live your life that way. And so if I can help a kid to release and to talk more about that and let go of all that and move forward, I think that would be something extremely valuable.
Have you been interviewed yet to be a big?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, we won't go into the details on that, but that invasive interview gave you the opportunity to share likes, dislikes, hobbies, interests, how you grew up. Mm-hmm. And that gives my team the context, relationship context, personal context to make the most appropriate match. So we're going to make sure when you come back, you're going to have your Loda with you.
Oh, that'd be great.
We'll give it some time, of course, for you to build that relationship. And then that little guy is going to talk about what you're doing for one another, because it's a two-way street.
Yeah, it is.
And speaking of two-way street, and so you've jumped right in. I mean, Rick, you bring the energy. You've been to, 2 Big Brother Big Sisters events? And we had the holiday reception with the board. Yeah. Was that your first event?
First event was...
Oh, was it Jazz at Joe's?
Jazz at Joe's.
So Jazz at Joe's holiday happy hour with the fellow board members.
That's
the
right.
holiday reception.
That's right.
And then, of course, Guys Night Out. So
Guys Night Out, and then the donor appreciation night.
Look at that. So you're 4 for 4.
Yeah.
Our last 4 events, you've been at all of them.
I'm in. I'm all in. When's the next one?
Yeah, I'm telling you. I tell you what, coming up. So we got Gale April 20th, and we're going to just, I mean, that's next level. That's
right.
next. I'll go ahead and drop it right now.
Yeah.
Gale April 20th, 2024, Faina Forum. And we got, speaking of, we talk hip-hop pre-show, we got Grammy-nominated artist Mace that will just shut it down on April 20th. So that's going to be very special.
Yeah.
And so you've been to the various events, some more intimate, like donor appreciation. Mm-hmm. But what theme do you see, or what was your takeaway leaving each event? Maybe it was different takeaways. I'm just curious.
My takeaways has been just the incredible good nature of the people that come, spend their time, donate their time, their hard-earned money, to contribute towards a great cause. And something that always stood out to me is when I first took a tour, and I think I've mentioned this to you before.
Yep.
There is that wall or that section upstairs, right, where it's got all the pictures of the bigs and littles. And if you remember, I needed to take a pause when we were taking the tour. I'm like, hold on a second. Let me soak this in. And this is what I found in all of these events. It's just the good nature of everyone that's attending. And, in litigation, sometimes you see the not so good in people. And here you can see that there is still a chance for humanity, and there is a lot of good people spending their hard-earned, money and time, and their valuable time, volunteering just to come and spend and make an innocent child. Because, at the end of the day, kids are just innocent. They're innocent. And so for these people to spend their time to improve a child's life is just very touching. And so hopefully I'll be able to do the same. That's my goal.
Well, you bring the energy from day one. Rick, sharing your personal story, being an incredible husband, incredible father, and a brand new board member. So thank you for joining the team. One of the things we say, Rick, here in the Game of Life Mentoring Podcast, that, in the game of life, everybody makes a team, but how you play is up to you. We appreciate you, and welcome to the team.
Thank you. Couldn't be happier.
The Game of Life Mentoring Podcast. As we said, we'll say it again, in the game of life, everybody makes the team, but how you play is up to you. Hey, this is Gale Nelson, President and CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters Miami, the host of The Game of Life.